It's Ham and his sons in Canaan who have no intention of being a servant to the sons of Shem and the sons of Japheth and the other people there. They left Eden. They left and found this plain in Shinar. And then they tried to reestablish the axis mundi on their own by, I don't know. They must have figured they had this authority or something. And that gives more insight into their sin there. So they're trying to reestablish the axis mundi in the wrong land. And so they say, go to, let us make brick. Let us build us a tower whose top may reach unto heaven. And that's to invite down the gods or God. I don't know what they were thinking at this point. And let us make us a name. There's that use of name again. And see, they want to establish the name. Just like the sons of God, when they came down and had sons, the men of renown or men of the name. You see the sons of God getting involved in trying to establish the name, but it's illegitimate. Here you have the Edenic people trying to establish the name, and it's illegitimate. God will establish the name through Shem, whose name means name. But God will establish the name through Shem. And the Bible, of course, follows it down to Abraham and stuff like that. But so in this verse 4, though, there's that name issue again. Let us make us a name. Lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of Eden. See? They want to establish the name there. And they don't want God to scatter them in the sacred land. They don't want to be servants to the other Edenic people. So when you kind of start reading on that and following that pattern, you'll start to see that. Does that make sense?
A lot of sense. And the reason why you skipped chapter 10 was because if you took chapter 10 following chapter 11, it's supposed to fall in there as it is, I guess, then you would not come to the recognition that it was Ham and his sons that were trying to accomplish this feat.
Yeah, you might miss that if the reader doesn't realize that the historic narrative pauses for a moment while chapter 10 occurs, and that's just the table of nations. It's telling the reader the nations that arose as a result of the Babel punishment. And Jews have a funny way of doing things, man. They'll put a context for something like this right before you need it. That's why it's right before the Tower of Babel story. In our way of thinking, we would kind of maybe tuck this behind the Tower narrative, you know. But it's just the Jews kind of had a way of putting this information right in front of the Tower story, so that you would know. That's just the way their mind thinks. And there's another time or two where they do that. The genealogy of Adam to Seth on up to Noah is a piece that's inserted pretty much before the flood story. That's another section that was kind of inserted, and it's not necessarily historical narrative, you see. But there was another example that's even better than that, where something, you can tell the priest inserted this information like right before you needed it. I'll have to think about that. It's not coming to mind right now. It's real clear, though. It's a good example.
But no, the Tower of Babel makes a lot of sense. Essentially, you have Ham and his sons, one of them being Canaan, I presume, um, wanted to really establish this giant ziggurat, to make a name for themselves, to kind of restore the Axis Mundi, a call upon God or the gods to restore Eden, uh, and pretty much go against their destiny that was stated in Genesis 9. Is that kind of a summary of what essentially
Yeah.
the Tower of Babel is, what's going on with the Tower of Babel?
Yeah.
Okay, now that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we've talked about ziggurats before, and the correct idea of, or at least in this context of bringing God or bringing the gods, well, in the correct sense, bringing God down to earth to kind of restore, I guess,
Yeah.
Eden, restore
Yeah.
the, yeah. So that fits too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if when Ham and his descendants journeyed east to the plain in Shinar, let me look at something here. I think the Sialk, Ziggurat, and I think many others already existed by that time. Uh, yeah, the Sialk Ziggurat dates to 3000 BC, and it might be a little older than that even. And I think there were others that just haven't survived to today. So these Edenic people, the Ham and his descendants, when they journeyed east to Shinar, they must have somehow been influenced by those people to mimic their ziggurat concept to try to bring God down.
I see.
And that would have been additionally sinful, I guess. I don't know. But those people would have had that idea going all the way back to Genesis 6, when when the sons of God did that, which probably occurred in several locations, I'm assuming, because I think one of those happened in Uruk, where Cain built his city, because of the Naamah, the girl Naamah in Cain's genealogy, that means lovely and agreeable. I just know Moses has that in the genealogy, so we can make that logical connection there. And if Cain was responsible for building the well, if the city of Enoch, after the confusion of tongues known as Erech or Uruk, and if Cain was responsible for building the Anu ziggurat there, which was really just an elevated platform, that could have been what motivated later ziggurat building. There would have been success at Uruk with this elevated platform, and so you would have seen this ziggurat building later. People knew that this had been successful. So that's just something I'm thinking. But I know the sons of God must have come down at several places, because there's old Jewish legends in the Book of Enoch and stuff that it occurred at Mount Hermon. And we know that there were giants up there in Bashan following the flood, which left them unscathed. I didn't go up there and wipe them out. And then there were giants in Edom and what, over east then by Sodom? What are the two places over there named after Lot's sons? Moab and Ammon. Yeah, the Ammonites. Moab and Ammon. So you got all those giants. I'm thinking there were multiple places the sons of God came down and did that. And there would have been giants in Eden. So when the sons of God came down and did that, there would have been some Edenic Nephilim. And that could be a very bad combination, man. You would have a big Nephilim that would live 900 years. You don't want that. Did you ever think about that? But the flood killed all the Edenic Nephilim. I don't know how I got off on that.
Trying to establish like why would ziggurats be used to call upon the name of the Lord or something?
Right, that's what it was. Yeah,
and
it all goes back to Uruk. I think it must somehow. It all goes back to Uruk. You know,
maybe it might have saw something with him and his brother Abel that this idea of the Lord talking to them down on earth, offering sacrifices, so they would build this platform, this altar in a way to try to get the Lord to come down to them. Maybe he saw some sort of parallel in Eden, and then wanted to mimic that. And then
it could be.
And then everybody.
It could be, because Mount Moriah is like an elevated area, but when you're over in Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers there's no elevated areas. You have to kind of travel into Syria to start getting into mountains and stuff. And then I think south, I think it's still just flat forever. So maybe the Arabian Peninsula starts getting mountainous.
And just like what Ham and his descendants tried to do, anybody and everybody wanted to establish a name for themselves or wanted to attempt to restore Eden. So everybody just started building, maybe not everybody, but ziggurats started to become a little more popular. This idea of calling upon the name of the Lord, which started in Genesis, at the end of Genesis 4 here. To Seth, also a son was born. Yeah. He called his name Enoch. At that time, people began to call upon the name of the Lord. People started to want to restore the Axis Mundi, is the way at least I kind of see in this. Yeah,
I think these are non-Edenic people outside Eden making this attempt to call down, the sons of God or something. And there must have been some success that they had in mind doing this. I mean, you don't just keep building all these ziggurats everywhere if they don't actually do anything. That's something that about the ancient world. People that deny any supernatural at all or anything. You have these ancient people really dedicating an amazing amount of effort to something that has like just no result at all. And they all pretend stuff is going on, like at a charismatic church service or something.
Yeah.
I think there was success with these ziggurats somehow. I don't know if angels have used them to talk with people or what, but I think even if there wasn't much success with them, they would all keep building these because of a memory of success that happened at Uruk, or Uruk and other places when the sons of God actually came down.
I wonder, like in Genesis 6, that these sons of God start coming down because of the ziggurats or something like that.
I don't think so, because like Uruk is the earliest one, and we don't have any for some time after that. That doesn't really mean anything, but Uruk's really the earliest one of its kind that we know of.
I see.
And it falls right at the time Cain would have lived and built his city. And then Boscawen talks about how Uruk is a corruption of Enoch. So there's a lot to that. That's where this Anu ziggurat, so called, was built. Doesn't look like other ziggurats, though. It's not like a multi-tiered thing. It's just one elevated platform. And then sometime later, the people of Uruk built a white temple on top of it. When was that? Well, that was 3500 BC. So they could have built that in commemoration of the success that occurred there.
Could it be like yeah, yeah, like some sort of success had to have happened, because you would expect, like, okay, if they saw that Cain came from the Edenic land and was building this ziggurat, or had his people build the ziggurat to call, bring down the sons of God, call upon the name of the Lord, um, and nothing, no success came of it, then they would just not worry about it. Or you would see maybe some other ziggurats were built around the same time to try it, so they could try it themselves. And then if nothing came into fruition, that would be the only case of it. But then but you were saying that other ziggurats were coming around later
Yeah,
in time. So it could be both, but yeah, something influential or something significant must have happened there in Uruk,
yeah,
for people to start doing the same thing. Maybe,
yeah,
yes, whether some sons of God came down, or I don't know, or maybe even like Cain and his people were blessed and they built a city and they saw that blessing there must have been from the Lord or something. So then other people start building ziggurats. Um,
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it was
I
success
think
motivated.
Cain would have been living a really long time, though, and his descendants among a people that were just mortal like you and me. And so you can see where the long ages of the pre-flood kings of Uruk came from. That's how those legends started. And the ancient people had reverence for the serpent, but also associating different things with it. Uh, Immortality and some just other concepts. Snake omens developed, where if a snake appeared, if you're with your wife and you see a snake together, that's like a bad omen for the marriage and stuff. And those are ancient Sumerian snake omens and stuff. All these memories, and they all had, they knew about the flood. All these memories and stuff all connect back to an original story that was true.